All right, shout out to the fam. Shout out to FanDuel, the official sponsor of the Sports Coma. Big ups to you guys as well. Feel free to share, like, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Big Q, the Sports Coma, representing the mighty Who Dat Nation, man. We up in this thing. And in this episode, man, we're going to talk about a kind of a primer, or a preview, rather, for the Scouting Combine. We're going to talk about certain topics centered around the Saints as we lead up into one of the most important aspects of the offseason if you're an NFL supporter of your team. Now, shout out to NOLA.com. They did a really good article to kind of readdress or talk about some of the topics of discussions for the New Orleans Saints that specifically catered to our team. We need to be able to ascertain some of this information and figure out some of the answers, or maybe make some predictions and see exactly where the Saints will head. We don't know how that will happen, but it'll be fun following it. So as we lead up to the NFL's Scouting Combine, you're going to have all the drills, the interviews. You're going to hear the executives talk. We're going to cover a lot of this on our Patreon show, by the way, fam. So y'all hit the Patreon up. Join our patreon.com/the Pro Media Network. We'll be covering a lot of the Saints-related content in terms of the exec interviews, coaching interviews, player stuff centered around the New Orleans Saints side of the Combine, right? So, let's kind of get underway with some of the discussions prior to this situation. Is Alontae Taylor's market, right? Now, according to the article, he's talking about what will be the demand for cornerback Alontae Taylor before the Saints opted to keep him at the trade deadline, right? There was some rumors saying that the Saints were looking at trading or trying to trade Alontae Taylor. We did know that they wanted too much for the trade. So we'll see if that comes back to bite them in the rear. And maybe the Saints feeling a little cocky that they can be able to, get Alontae on the free agency market. They believe that the market will be favorable for them to sign Alontae Taylor back. Now, we could have got something for Alontae Taylor at the trade deadline. There were teams interested. The Colts was interested. Y'all remember that? Ultimately, they said that the Saints asked for too much for Alontae Taylor. So the Colts, the Bears were reportedly in the mix for him. Dennis Allen wanted to throw him in his defense. There should be no shortage of suitors for the spring. The potential gap in the value will be what we'll be monitoring. The league's highest paid nickel cornerback, Chicago's Kyler Gordon, who makes $40 million over 3 years. That's $13.3 million a year. But Taylor, who's also played an outside cornerback, watched former teammate Paulson Adebo sign an average of $18 million. It's a $50-something million contract that he signed with the Giants. I think he had like one pick this past season. Quite a difference between $18 million a year and 13.3. So the Saints tried to negotiate a deal with Taylor this past season, but didn't reach an agreement. Now, we realized that during the year, there was some discussion about about him re-signing, and it wasn't just this past year leading into your final year. Usually it's the year before, say you have 4 years on your deal. The third year, at the tail end of the third year, that summertime going into the final year is usually when most teams want to know, the value for their guy signing that particular cornerback, so it don't get to a position or a place that we are right now where he's an unrestricted free agent. He's in the market that could be for or against you, right? And if you knew or felt like his asking price was too high, why not just trade him at the deadline and get something for Alontae Taylor, right? We could have got something, maybe a second or third round pick. Might have been something in that level. We don't know now. So the old guy's rewarded. Taylor isn't the only Saints defender with a possible complicated negotiation after the bounce back season. Cam and DeMario, New Orleans is left in a tricky spot. How much to pay for their past performance when factoring the future contracts? It's not often that for 36-year-old players who get a raise, but both Cam and DeMario might be willing to take a much discount this time around, right? How many other teams will be interested in this week might provide some clarity. That is not what we're getting right now. Both Cam and DeMario Davis right? Or they're not willing to take much of a discount because they realize that this is the season where they're in their last year. And very rarely you'll see players as aged as Double D and Cam do what they did. Like Cam led the team in sacks with 10 and a half. Chase was second place with 10. And Demario Davis had 140 plus tackles this season, leading the team in tackles, right? At that advanced age. So when you get older players in final years of deals that ball out like that, they're in their final years, and they know some of these guys like Cam, he's headed to a media career with NFL Network. He already has a podcast on their network system. He constantly goes in and between places. He'll fly out there and do shows there. So eventually you can see him after he spends some time with his family go and work for the NFL Network. I can turn the TV on and see Cam on there in the mornings or whatever because he has that type of energy. Demario Davis, who knows what that case might be. But the bottom line is these guys want to cash out. They want to cash out on that deal on that last year because they know that don't rarely happen. And cash out, not like break the bank, but a respectable deal. And we said this before, anywhere between $7.5 to $10 million is what they're going to be pressing for. Some people say, damn, Q, that's close to what they was, making in that a third. But the reality is that's what they want, and Demario knows that Dennis Allen's to Chicago. This is a real thing. If the Saints don't pay these guys what they want, perhaps Demario Davis would be cool with going to play with the Chicago Bears. I throw the Bears out there because of the connection and the relationship to Dennis Allen. They know that defense. They know that they can have success in that defense. So it could be a situation where if you don't handle it right, they could end up going to another destination. And a lot of people would understand it and hate it at the same time, right? For real. So we'll see what that can be. And of course, remember that a lot of these players realize that the Saints have money this year, right? Not like they didn't have money last year, but they cannot use the excuse that we pressed up against the cap. We can't afford to pay this amount of money. So we asking guys to take restructured deals to kind of help us out, this sort of thing. Saints in the pay at $8 million in the red. They'll restructure several deals and free up a lot of money that Demario and Cam, because of big seasons, want. Not to break, to kind of have an over, massive deal, but a respectable deal between the aforementioned numbers. All right, let's keep it going. Then the next topic of discussion here is dazzling defenders. Prevailing thought, at least among draft analysts, other media members, is that the Saints should look to juice their offense around quarterback Tyler Shuck with better weapons. But if that narrative is going to change, the combine could be the start of the shift. This is a strong class of edge rushers, another need for the Saints, and perhaps the Saints will be tantalized enough by Ruben Bain from Miami, Texas Tech's David Bailey, who had like 14 and a half sacks, Ohio State's Arvell Reese, the merit consideration when they're on the clock at number 8 come April, if any of them are left on the board. There's also Ohio State safety Caleb Downs, who becomes an intriguing option should Taylor bolt in free agency, right? So let's put a pin in that and kind of address each one of those things, right? He's right. The Saints really, a lot of people think the Saints draft should be offensive centered, right? We feel, a lot of people feel like we need to give Tyler Shuck as many weapons as he possibly can need, right? He could use another wide receiver. He can use some help at the running back position. He can use some interior offensive line help, right? He can use those things because those are definitely needs. It'll get to the point where we'll quantify which need is bigger, here or, there. But if you're the New Orleans Saints, you're scouting, you're going to scout the best players that fit what you want to do with your system. You're going to also, in free agency, once you free up in the money, you want to approach it where you take care of the majority of your needs in free agency, and then when the draft comes around, you just draft the best player according to your board, right? So that's the philosophy a lot of teams like to take. Like it becomes a difficulty when you don't have the money to go into free agency and address the needs. You might have one guy you can afford to get and others in certain roles, and you might still feel like, hey man, we still need some help here Let's go to the draft. Then it becomes more dicey because then you have to kind of reach for certain players that don't belong at the slot you want them to be in. You see what I'm saying? And all that plays a part. When you start reaching, that's when you really start getting in trouble a lot of times in the draft. But with the Saints being $8 million in the red, one of the main things they could do when they rework the contracts is they can turn around and then go into free agency and sign offensive line, interior offensive line help in free agency that we can use, re-signing guys like Fortner, picking up a couple of offensive linemen in free agency to beef up the interior, perhaps looking at a wide receiver in free agency as well, a veteran guy to help balance the room next to Chris Olave. We got all these other guys like Vele and the rest, but none of these guys are as proven as Chris Olave is. And when you got Tyler Shuck, who's 26 years old, you want to be able to kind of give him as much talent as he possibly can. Of course, the Saints going to want to probably draft a tight end or maybe get one in free agency, a veteran guy. They might want to sign a veteran QB down the line to be in the room as a third guy in the room for injury purposes. For Spencer Rattler, you might need another quarterback there because Taysom Hill could be on the outs. So there's a lot of stuff to consider there. That's why a lot of the mindset is to address as many needs as you see fit in free agency. And when you get to the draft, you can just do, what you do and just pick the best player according to your draft board. But sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. But we've yet to determine that. But all of these guys, whether you're talking about Miami's Reuben Bain or Texas Tech's David Belly or Arvell Reese from Ohio State or Caleb Downs from Ohio State, these guys are terrific talents. The Saints will find they will draft at the number 8 position. You will get you'll have access to at least one of these top players. You'll have access to one of these top defensive end edge rushers. You have access to one of the best linebackers. You have access to the best linebacker in the draft or one of the best top 2. When you're inside that slot, you'll get an access to the best cornerback in the draft, the best safety in the draft, the best offensive lineman perhaps in the draft. You'll have access to one of the top 2 wide receivers in the draft, possibly the best running back in the draft. So at some point, if you're the New Orleans Saints and you're in the top 8, you should be looking to land a bona fide superstar if it's there, meaning that Jeremiah Love is there. And you look at what his value would be with Tyler Shuck and a rebuilt interior offensive line. This could be a massive leap in terms of the Saints offense because they need the run game to be able to balance things off right here. So you be able to really land. There are quite a few players that have a special impact on the game outside of Jeremiah Love. But there are some players, we talk about Caleb Downs and others, but it'll be interesting to see exactly how the Saints handle that. Also is the Alvin Kamara buzz. NFL.com recently listed Saints running back Alvin Kamara as a possible cut candidate. We covered this on the previous stream. The Saints can save $8.5 million using a post-June 1st release indication on Alvin Kamara. By parting ways with him, it's not as simple as it seems. For one, Kamara's $18 million cap hit will still be fully on the books until June. So the Saints would benefit from the money until, they wouldn't truly benefit from it until next season's roster or for a rare late summer signing. So the better question could be whether Alvin is open to staying, but with a pay cut. Though it's unclear whether the Saints have engaged him in such discussions. It probably is going to come. It's definitely one of the things. And even though people say, man, this is the man last year. And I can see Mickey Loomis approaching Alvin Kamara about a pay cut. And Alvin already listed that he doesn't want to be anywhere else but the Saints. So why would he not take a cut in pay to remain with the team for the rest of his career, which is one more year? He's on a final year of the deal. Kendre Miller's on the final year of his rookie contract. So that's why the talk of Jeremiah Love is there and all this kind of stuff is set there because of the uncertainty at the running back position beyond this year, right? So it's worth noting that that's a big chunk of change. Even if they and I don't see them post June 1st releasing Elvin because I could see him taking a cut. I could see Mickey Loomis approaching him, asking him to take the pay cut simply because he did that before. If y'all remember, this happened before with Elvin Kamara, not the pay cut, but Mickey Loomis has no problem approaching Elvin Kamara, even when he approached him about possibly being traded. So, I can't poo-poo this because of the recent information that we've been getting over the last year about the behaviors of the Saints organization and in connection to Elvin Kamara. So I can definitely see a cut in pay happening for him to remain on the team. And of course, there's the Derek Carr interest. That's also a nice little giblet of news to throw in there. If Derek Carr is serious about coming out of retirement, the combine could be a good way to find out if the interest is mutual, meaning the Saints could reap some return in the trade. The former Saints quarterback said on a podcast that he'd only do it for a chance to win a Super Bowl, which would limit his market. Will any of these contending teams want to take a chance on a soon-to-be 34-year-old quarterback coming off a major shoulder injury? The answer is yes. In this current climate, based on what we've been seeing in teams, the free agency for quarterbacks is not really that good. And that is why it's a good time for Derek Carr to come out of retirement and get into the NFL game. There's strong rumors that are being situated around Minnesota. There are other teams involved too. There was something mentioned in the Indianapolis Colts, even though Jones might be going back after the tear that he had, the muscle tear that he had. And there are one or two other teams. We talked about it. Not so much maybe the Jets in this thing, because even though Jets could be looking for a quarterback, they have some weapons there. I don't think they're not even close to contending right away. But the Minnesota Vikings is the team that a lot of people believe have serious interest in Derek Carr as a competing interest with McCarthy, or a guy that can serve as such. If McCarthy fails, they can go to Carr in a support role at 34 years old. Would that work for him? I think so. Based on what we're hearing, it would be cool for him to come out of retirement, because this benefits the Who Dat Nation, because we control his contract. We can ultimately work out a situation where we trade Derek Carr, we get draft capital, and it helps take a lot of that dead money that we're dealing with. In part, it helps us with that. So we covered that in another show as well. But these are some of the topics of discussion that we're having as we get ready for the NFL Combine. Derek Carr's interest, Elvin Kamara's buzz, the defenders, what we talk about, and also the old guys getting rewarded, and Alontae Taylor's market. This will be interesting to find out. The biggest question in my book is the fact that I'm looking at the Alontae Taylor shoe to drop. I think that is probably the most important, not to disparage the other commentary, but I think that Alontae Taylor, the topic of discussion, is the most trickier one, because the market sets the value of the player, and if the value is too high, do the Saints then pivot away from Alontae Taylor, or do they match what he got going on? So that's yet to be determined. We'll have to watch that. Also, the Cam Jordan, Demario Davis re-signings would be also interesting to see how the Saints handle that. And free agency, once we get in there, we still got guys like Luke Fortner. The new free agents the Saints might sign, we need some help interior offensive line wise with the guard positions. Another veteran wide receiver, perhaps. And then of course the draft comes. So this will be fun to watch all this happen as we are on the eve of the NFL Combine. With that being said, y'all feeling y'all thoughts on all these, this array, this buffet, this football buffet of topics that we covered on this episode of the show. Put all of y'all commentary in the description section below in the chat. Let me know how y'all feel. What do y'all think about this? Do you believe that Saints will bring Alontae Taylor back? Do you think the market will be beneficial for the Saints or for Alontae? How do you feel about Cam Jordan and Demario Davis re-signing, and what their contracts look like? How much do you think that would be respectable for them, that will show them they're valued? Put that in the chat. How do you feel about Elvin Kamara taking a pay cut, or the Saints using that post-cut situation to free up $8.5 million? Put all your topics all your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm soliciting for them. With that being said, I'm going to get on up out of here. Shout out to FanDuel. If y'all want to get your bets in, check out FanDuel for all of their stuff. Also, big ups to the family members. Much love to the Great Saint Think Tank, Patreon champions, and YouTube membership family. If y'all want to get all that live content, join the channel or simply go to patreon.com/Pro Media Network. We have our own news show over there called O&Q with Big Q, the O&Q library for a lot of stuff outside of the world of entertainment and sports we talk about and cover there as well. And also it helps the platform as we keep going forward and building this thing. Y'all can see a lot of positive changes that we've been making and as we continue to grow. Also, shout out to the fam for your birthday wishes from the fam. It was my birthday yesterday, February the 23rd. I'd like to give a shout out and thank you to all of the family members who was well wishing for the birthdays, and shout out to you guys. Thank the Most High for another fantastic year to spend with you guys, families and friends. If you want to show some love, you know, the Cash App is there. Also, if you want to show more love, you can feel free to just share the show across social media, Facebook, Instagram. It doesn't matter. Take the Coma with you. With that being said, man, I'm going to holler at y'all on the next one. Much love, peace.
Who that say they gon' beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gon' beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gon' beat them Saints? Who that? Who that?
Hey, New Orleans! Whether you're catching up on Saints news at Jackson Square, checking Pelicans scores in the Garden District, or staying updated on LSU while grabbing coffee in the French Quarter, there's one place that keeps you connected to everything that matters in our city. From Bourbon Street to the Superdome, from Preservation Hall to the Riverfront, New Orleanians are staying in the know with the HootitDaily.com. Your daily source for Saints, Pelicans, LSU, and all the sports, music, and culture that makes our city special. At work downtown, at a game in the Dome, or just relaxing by the Mississippi, wherever life takes you in the Big Easy, you can stay connected. Because when you're from New Orleans, you don't just live here. You stay in the NO. That's stay in the know. Visit the HootDatDaily.com and never miss what matters most to Houdat Nation.
Welcome to the Pro Shop, where we create authentic NOLA-inspired clothing for men, women, and children. From Saints jerseys to Pelicans gear, everything's crafted right here in New Orleans. Whether you're shopping the Pro Shop, the Pel Shop, or the Pro Shop Kids, we've got your whole family covered with genuine merchandise that represents our city's spirit. Check for links in the description section below or in the chat.